Hello folks, I have a 1999 Fleetwood Bounder 34V with the Ford F53 chassis and the Triton V10 engine. And as we're getting ready to do a long trip across the country here, I've been trying to get it ready, and I've been having some frustrations with the starter, which recently decided to not work every time we tried to start the vehicle. And we'd try 2 or 3 times and leave it, and then try again the next day or later that day, and then it would start. And then we would have the same thing again a few days later. When we tried to start it again, it wouldn't respond. So we've gone through a diagnosis process here. I ended up replacing the starter underneath, which would be the standard go-to, but that actually did not solve the problem. So I probably put a rebuilt starter on here, and I didn't have to. One of the other things that I checked was the starter relays, which are in here. It's actually one of these 3. I was unable to find, I don't have the actual manual for this unit. I was trying to find out which relay it actually was, and I was not able to determine that, but I knew that it was one of those 3. So I basically switched the position on all 3 of them. They're all the same part number. One is for the air conditioning, one is for something else, I'm not really sure, but I knew one of them was for the starter. That didn't solve the problem either. So then, talking to some people at work who know more about this than I do, I was told I should be checking for bad wiring or possibly a dirty engine ground. And that then took me to going underneath, trying to find where the engine ground is. And it was a long time before I finally found it, but I did find it, and I will now show you where it is if you happen to have the same unit. You need to go up to the front right corner of the coach, right in front of the front wheel on the right side. And you have to get down on the ground, and you have to scoot in underneath. Just 1 second here. Okay, here we are. Now I am inside underneath the front right corner, basically right behind the battery. That's what this big black thing filling your vision is. Over to the left is the radiator support, or the frame that the radiator sits in. Down inside the radiator support, you see that green screw right there? Well, that is the engine ground contact. And I did take that off and clean it. It doesn't look much like it, but I actually did scrub the contact with a steel wool, put everything back on, and that did not solve the problem either. But right here, even though the starter has a solenoid attached to it, there is another solenoid right here attached to the same radiator support right above the ground. And I was given some suggestions about how to do this from the guys at work. I basically had to take the little rubber boots off of the big gold colored contacts there. And while my son was holding the key in the start position inside, I put the end of a screwdriver with a rubber, wearing a leather glove, pardon me. I put a screwdriver across from one contact to the other. I got a little bit of a light show from the sparks, but sure enough, it actually started the second that the screwdrivers touched the contacts both at the same time. It started the unit. So that is the problem. Obviously, either that solenoid has failed and needs to be replaced, or it is possible that it's just dirty contacts. Maybe. I'm going to try that right now. I'm going to clean the contacts, disconnect them, and reconnect it and see if it behaves better. My suspicion is that I'm going to have to replace the solenoid. But there is more than one solenoid here. There's one on the starter like normal, and there is also one attached to the side of the radiator support right under here, front right corner of the unit, beside the battery. So hopefully this will help save some people the same frustrations I've had trying to figure out why my motorhome wouldn't start. I'll let you know how it goes with cleaning this, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so I crawled back underneath, and well, after disconnecting the battery first, crawled back underneath, and I unscrewed the nuts that are on that solenoid to disconnect the cables to it, or the wires to it, and I cleaned them with some steel wool and some electrical contact cleaner. There was a little bit of green crusty stuff on them. I put the whole thing back together, and I went inside, and sure enough, it actually did start. But it is possible that that is just a happy coincidence, because it has been starting intermittently. I will have to let you know if that is actually how this all turned out, if it actually was just dirt, or if that solenoid still needs to be replaced. But at any rate, just some other possibly helpful information. The starter bolts, the actual starter itself, the bolts were 13 millimeters for your socket, and the one of the connections on the starter was actually also 13, but the ignition wire on the starter, the smaller one of the two, was a 10 millimeter socket. It's also 13 millimeter sockets that disconnect the main battery, but of course they had to be different. That solenoid underneath that I just showed you in the video actually has 9/16 nuts on it holding it in place. So just to help you know which tools you need to get under there to fix this or to work on it, 9/16 on that solenoid. Well, hopefully this helped somebody. I am not a professional mechanic. I know that a lot of the time you go on the blog sites and people are asking for help on stuff like this, and somebody always pops up and says, call a professional mechanic. Well, that's very good for you to say that kind of stuff, but I was trying to book a mechanic to look at this vehicle in the next couple of weeks, and the earliest I could get in was September, and I need the vehicle in less than 2 weeks from now. And also, when I was calling around to different places to try and get someone to look at it in my time frame, the moment that they found out that my unit was 34 feet long, the conversation was basically over. A lot of places don't have a facility big enough to work on a unit like this, depending on where you are located. So sometimes you actually have to bite the bullet and learn how to do a lot of this stuff yourself. I've fixed a lot of stuff on this thing. There's still parts of it that I haven't got a clue about. I look inside that engine bay, and there's all kinds of wires everywhere that I still have no idea after all this time what they do. But I'm learning more each and every time something breaks on it. So if I can think of any other helpful videos that you might be looking for, I will post. I know that the finding the engine ground was always a big one that I was always hearing about, and finding out that there was this second solenoid, which seems to be my problem, that was also a big one for me. So hope this helps somebody, and I might post other videos about this some other time. Thanks.